Hi, I'm Marlon Gould. There are issues that greatly impact the Black ethnicity. In our series, The Value of Life in the Black Community, we will be interviewing guests as we discuss the problems and the solutions for the Black community. I hope you'll join us. I'm so glad you joined us as we continue our conversation with Janet Boynes of Janet Boynes Ministry. Janet Boynes came out of a homosexual lifestyle, and she is preparing a curriculum to help churches and other groups with dealing with this subject. Janet, do you know of cases in your own ministry or from other pastors that that really raised the alarm, so to speak, that something needs to be done in terms of education for the churches?
Yes, and that's why we're putting together this curriculum. David Pickup is the psychotherapist. He's Dr. Pickup now. Jonathan Alexander is an attorney. He talks about the laws. He works for Matt Staver, Liberty Counsel. A lot of people have heard of Matt Staver. And I was talking with these two gentlemen. They speak at my conferences every year for the last 5 years. And I talk with them about putting something together, which is not out there yet. A curriculum for not only Christian colleges, pastors and ministry leaders, pastors that can share with their staff, and hopefully, Christian colleges will pick this up, especially those that are planning to be pastors, because I think we need to have a better understanding on how do we deal with certain things that happen in the church. So we know the church worldwide as a whole has had the wrong response to the issue of homosexuality. And talking with my spiritual father, James Robison from Life Today, the number one thing that I see we're dealing with churches, not your church, because not your church, but many churches are dealing with fear. We have so many people in our congregation, in our pews, that are suffering in silence. And we want to help people become whole through the power of Jesus Christ. We don't want people coming out of homosexuality going into a life of heterosexuality. We want them to walk in wholeness. So I put together my curriculum as I'm getting ready to record it. Is one part that I really want to discuss right now is getting a better understanding of the issue. And how do we get a better understanding of the issue? I think there's 3 parts: consult, discuss, and research. You got to consult with those who have an understanding of this issue, such as myself. You really need to sit down with a psychotherapist. David Pickup, who the psychotherapist I work with, he's not only a psychotherapist, but he specializes in trauma. EMDR is what they call it. And then know a good attorney, because what if somebody lost their job because they didn't have the right pronouns, or they didn't call, a student by their pronouns, which is happening right now all over the country. And so, but really what happens is we wait for the roof to cave in before we really want to deal with this issue. What do I mean by that? We wait till something drastic happens either in our church or in our family before we think about dealing with homosexuality or even bringing somebody into the church. So my question to a lot of pastors is, if you and your attorney is not talking about this issue, or your board, then why not? Are you going to just wait till the roof cave in? There's certain things that I believe a church should start doing. What does your church believe in pertaining to homosexuality? So what does it believe? Is it on your website, in your about section about the church? Is there anything on homosexuality and what you believe? Do you believe marriage is between a man and a woman? If you don't, then tell them that on your website. What's in your bylaws? Pastors that are watching this, that are listening to this. Because what happens is, if a gay person comes to your church and say, I want to get married, and you can say, well, you can't get married because we believe in this, they're going to sue you. But if you say it's been on my website and you have a date that has been on there since this date, it's going to be a hard time for them to say, well, we're going to sue you. Did you go to my website to see what we believe in? Do you have a designated bathroom for that trans person who decides he or she wants to go into a bathroom that doesn't match their God-given design? Do you have a bathroom designated for them? I recommend something like a family bathroom, because you're going to have men and women pastors and leaders and moms and dads that are going to come into the church a man dressed like a girl dressed like a guy. Some of these men tried to go into the women's bathroom. Could you imagine being in the bathroom with your child and here you see this man standing up in the bathroom and nobody caught it? That's devastating to a child. So we have to have things in order. If we know there's a trans person in our church and you see them get up, there's always just somebody until that person life has changed, until they start dressing like a man, have an eye on that person all the time. If they get up and walk out from either side of the church, they need to know where that person is going to, making sure they're not going into a woman's bathroom. What if they want to volunteer? Pastors, are you listening? Do you let them volunteer because you want to love them and you want to prove to them that you love them? So you're going to let them volunteer knowing that they're still living in sin or still looking at pornography, or a man still is dressed like a woman or a woman still dressed like a man? Are these things in place? What if a gay person is being affectionate? What if they're being affectionate? How do you deal with that in the church? Do you just go tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, we don't believe in that? Or do you wait till after church and maybe pull them aside and say, can we meet with you? That would be the correct thing to do. This should be on your website even now, that marriage is between a man and a woman. We love you. We want you to come to church here, but this is what we believe, and we're asking you to abide by our beliefs. Please come to church, but we don't want you to be affectionists. No, I'm sorry. We cannot allow you to volunteer at this time. But what if they want to be baptized? What if they have 5 children and they want to be baptized? Do you baptize the children? The children want to give their heart to God. They go to church on a regular basis. Do you baptize the adults? I'm going to answer from my perspective as a pastor. I believe children are not responsible for what their parents do. If we have an opportunity to minister to a child, and this kid is coming and they're saying they're reading their Bible and they want to get baptized, they want to serve God, I would baptize the children, but I would not baptize the parents.
Mm-hmm. And
We got to
why?
protect, because the parents are adults. They know what they're doing. They're living in sin. These are same-sex couples
I understand.
that are coming to the church. Now, let's look at it on a heterosexual. If you know that there's a heterosexual couple coming to your church, they're living together and they're sleeping together, same thing. They want to get baptized. They're not married. Are we going to baptize them? No. But if the kids want to get baptized, they're 15. Yes, why should we not? We have a right. We need to be an example to those children, because we don't know how God's going to use them. Maple Grove Assemblies of God. What if they turn me away? They didn't know God was going to use my story all over the world.
Right.
And I think that we have to really sit down and think about this. That's why you bring people in like myself, so we can talk about these things that we're dealing with, not only in our churches, but excuse me, but also in our homes. What kind of information do you have? Get sermons, get my books, get other people's books. Have information there, so when somebody is struggling, you have something to hand out to them. What if a person comes to church and say, hey, I'm struggling with homosexuality? Give them a copy of my book, or give them a brochure, or have something there for them so they can go to and talk to somebody that's like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that they feel like will understand them, because everybody doesn't understand. Most people will go, well, you need to change right away. You dress like a boy. Now you need to dress like a girl. That's not the way to handle it. That's not even how God works. He works from the inside out, not the outside in. I think that is so important. The Bible says in Proverbs 11:14, without wise leadership, a nation falls, and there is safety in having many advisors. That is so important.
Praise God. So, how long have you been working on this curriculum?
I have been working on this curriculum 2 years, 3 years.
Okay.
And I went out and raised all the money, and you would never believe there's a guy out of the country who I wind up getting to know. He reached out to the ministry about a year ago, and he wind up giving me the money that I needed to put this curriculum together. He didn't know me. He heard me on a TV show. He felt compelled in his heart that the Lord told him to give me the money for it. And so he gave us the money. So we were able to record it.
Wow. So
Not cheap either.
how soon are you gonna release this? What's the timeline?
We're hoping that it'll be released by June, but I will be able to talk with the person who is putting it all together when I get to Oklahoma tomorrow. So, and talk about this issue.
So, but 2024 is the year.
Yes, 2024 is the year. I waited too long to work on this and get it done, but with everything, my travel schedule and everything that's happening, sometimes it's hard. But this year was like, I got to buckle down and get this thing done. All the money came in, so we move forward. And I was talking about that with someone. I was doing this study on how much money the gay community gets. There's about 15 large LGBT groups around the country in the 50 states. And there's a guy out in Kalamazoo that his grandfather had this big ministry. I'm sorry, his grandfather had this, let me see if I can find it, had this business that he sold for over $13 billion. And he's given over $58 million to the gay community. Wow. And the reason why he's done that is because he decided he was gay. His name is John Stryker. And John started a foundation, a nonprofit to serve the LGBT community because of his own experience in coming out of the homosexual lifestyle or coming out that he was gay. And if you Google it, his foundation is called ARCUS, ARKCUS, and he's given over $58.4 million to programs and organizations doing LGBTQ related work. So that's how many of them, he's one of many billionaires that are giving to the gay community so they can come after us, shut us down, and do whatever they can. That's how they're staying in business, because you have people in Hollywood that support them as well, that are millionaires. So you can't take it with you. So they figure they'll give it to the gay community so they can come after Christians like us and try to take away our jobs, take away our parental rights, take us to court. And so at the moment it's working for them. But, our God owns a cattle on a hill. I believe that we'll get to a place where, we'll be able to stand up and have the resources and the finances to fight back if we need to.
Wow. And so it to me, it's very telling when people have to go to extremes to try to stop the opposition. In a country that was a free country, where people were free to express their views. Nobody was forced to have a particular view. Everybody was allowed to have their own views. There was freedom of speech. People were allowed to say what they wanted to say. And, the same kind of people that fought for the right for free speech, some of them are now fighting to stop other people from having free speech. In other words, they wanted to be free to say stupid things.
Right. Like it's a civil rights movement.
Right. So, and then once they got the right to say crazy stuff, then then they wanted to stop everybody else who was not in agreement with them. To me, that in itself, their fervor to shut down the opposition in itself shows that they're wrong.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have to go about it that way. We have one more segment with Janet Boynes of Janet Boynes Ministry, and we want you to join us as we continue this conversation about the freedom, the possibility of freedom from the homosexual lifestyle. Thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us again as we continue to discuss the value of life in the Black community.